So there is a AI film contest. This is the winner, 2 minutes long. I tried watching it, and the first few seconds didn't make any sense. But anyway, they have a contest, and you can view the winners of AI-generated films. So I'll throw the link in the chat in case anybody wants to check that out. This is very interesting. It's relatively dense and technical, but I didn't think there was any way to get past BitLocker, and there are known ways to get past BitLocker. And what Paul Asadoorian told me when he talked about this on his podcast is that there is a way, under certain conditions, to get BitLocker to leak the key onto one of the pins that you can connect to on the motherboard. And that is just exactly what was not supposed to be happening. The Trusted Platform module was supposed to be a cryptographic coprocessor that held the key so the key never left that chip. And apparently there are ways to fool it, and apparently it's better with TPM2. So this helps explain, perhaps, why Microsoft is forcing us to go to TPM2 for Windows 11. Anyway, this very interesting article with technical details, flaws in BitLocker. There are more flaws than I thought there were. BitLocker being Microsoft's drive encryption tool. So this, I think I've heard about these before. I didn't know it had gotten so serious. This is the Prime Minister of Italy, Meloni, and Russian pranksters called her and pretended to be African delegates and tricked her into saying the truth about Ukraine. And they've been doing this several times. They call people and claim to be international representatives and trick them into saying things they wouldn't want to say in public. And what they say is, we're getting tired of funding the Ukraine war and everybody expects us to do all the work and we're just waiting for an excuse to give up, which is, of course, valuable propaganda for the Russians. So, anyway, it's a pretty good act of political theater. So, I didn't know you could do this. You can buy license plate covers, and they're not just, you could just stick a piece of plastic or paper over your license plate, but this is actually an automated gadget that will slide down a cover over your license plate and be remote controlled from, I guess, inside the car. And San Francisco has ordered the stores to stop selling this, like Amazon and Walmart, because they say the only point of this is to commit a crime, obviously, right? You put this on your car, and then when you're going to do something illegal, like participate in a sideshow, one of the more common things people do illegally around here, you would clank that on, and so they want the people to quit selling it. It's an interesting thing. I'm not quite sure what I think of that. It seems to me like you just cover it up anyway, but anyway, I guess that would make it a little bit easier. Anyway, they have ordered them to stop selling it. Now, I wonder, if I was running Walmart, if I could decide to just keep selling it and say, I don't think you have the legal right to order me to stop selling it, because I don't think they do have that legal right. It's not gun. They'd have gun control regulation. I don't know. I think they'd have to really defend it in court. I mean, maybe they're hoping people will just comply out of politeness, but I highly doubt that San Francisco has the authority to order you to stop selling that thing. But anyway, we'll see what happens. So these guys, Ted Lieu and other people, have introduced a bill to regulate law enforcement's use of facial recognition, which we've talked about before. Facial recognition used by police has turned out to be really a problem in many places. It's just not accurate enough, especially on black people. It tends to finger the wrong person. There's a bunch of cases of the wrong person being hurt by law enforcement because of this. So they're now pushing this act will place strong limits on law enforcement use of facial recognition technology. It will force you to have probable cause and get a search warrant before you use facial recognition, which would certainly be nice. That would prove that you're not actually using just the facial recognition and nothing else. So anyway, this is just a proposal. It hasn't passed yet, but it's interesting to see the issue coming up. Now this, I think, is very important, and I've seen various added opinions about it. So SolarWinds was the company that manufactured remote control software for enterprises, and they got hacked by the Russians, and the Russians compromised their supply chain and poisoned their updates, so they infected thousands of American companies, all owned by the Russians, and many of them probably still are owned by the Russians. And now they have charged the CISO, saying that he exaggerated how secure his product was and defrauded his investors. And one guy, Jake one prominent security researcher, Jake something or other, said this is the greatest thing. This would probably advance security more than any 10 years of normal work, and somehow I've hit the wrong stupid button on this garbage trying to block me from reading it. All right, and anyway, but I have a lot more sympathy with other responses that I found in another article where they say, you know, the problem is they went through all their internal memos about the security incident, and they found things that suggested they knew more than they were telling, and then they sue. And the problem is that would always be the case. If you go through all your emails, there was one guy that said, I used to feel this way, like you should jail them based on these quick sound bites. And then I was involved in an investigation where the courts actually printed out all my emails. And the fact is, if somebody reads through all your emails, they'll find you saying something stupid. And it doesn't, everybody's guilty if you're going to be like this. And I think that's what every CISO would think. Every CISO, that is kind of your job. You have a security incident, people come to you telling you, we have an infection, we have a hacker in our network, then they do something about it. And then everybody, your investors and the press and the government come to you and say, what happened? How bad is it? And you're strongly tempted to say, well, it's not that bad. We've got it under control. You might even believe that. And then it turns out not to be true. And now you're going to be sued or go to jail for that. It just seems really harsh. And what they said is probably the end result of this will probably be that people will not be willing to post anything, even in their internal company emails or anything about the security incident. They'll try to leave no paper trail of how they handled the incident, so they can't be punished this way, which will make it harder to respond to incidents. So we'll see what happens. It's, I think, going to be very important for the security world, and it's not clear what the consequences are going to be. Here's a case like that license plate reader. So in Britain, people that go to this suicide website that tells you how to commit suicide, and it's been linked to 50 deaths. So now the providers are blocking it. The carriers in Britain are blocking it. And so, they have the right to do that, but I don't know if any government can force them to do that, but public outcry can force them to. And so anyway, it's an interesting issue. YouTube has got their global effort to block ad blockers. I've been seeing a few ads lately, not too bad, but they are quite serious about it. And this one, I think the last one, we'll do this one next, the most fun one. I heard about this on on Security Now. And it's very interesting. Citrix Bleed is really important, a really dangerous vulnerability that's affecting a lot of people. Citrix makes these devices you put on the edge of your network to serve as, I think, VPNs and other things. It's a remote control solution, again, sits on the edge of your network. And the point is, it has a very, I guess the only Citrix I know about is to remote control one server and share an application, but I think it has other things too. Anyway, the point is this vulnerability is pretty amazing. And what these guys did was take the patch and feed the patch into Ghidra and decompile it back to pseudo source code and compare the patched and unpatched versions and go through all the subroutines and find the source of the vulnerability, and it is very simple. Here's the vulnerable function. They call snprintf. Now, printf is the C command that will print to a string, or sprintf. And snprintf is intended to be the safe version. It will print to a string, but it will not allow you to print too much to the string and cause a buffer overflow. But it returns a value, which is the length of the string after the print command is completed. And if the print command causes the string to get longer than the original buffer, then it might overrun. And what they did here was they got this ivar3, which is the length of the string, and then they just send out response of length ivar3. They don't check ivar3 to see how big it is first. And that's the flaw. If you set up conditions where the string printing causes this to get too big to fit in the buffer, then it sends more data than it should, and it turns out it's sending uninitialized RAM to you. And the uninitialized RAM contains leftover data, including session tokens, so you can log in as other people. And to patch is just down here. It puts this in uvar7, and then if uvar7 is less than the size of the buffer, then it replies, otherwise it doesn't reply. This is the whole trick, so they just don't let it get too big. So it's a very simple, classic stack buffer overflow of the type we've had many times before. Even though they're using the supposedly safe string functions in C, they use them incorrectly, so they end up with the same flaws using the old bad ones, a simple buffer overflow. And that's affecting, being exploited all over the place, thousands of large companies being exploited. Hello, Voki Bahai. All right, and Yep, here's Citrix, their immediate patching of their critically vulnerable product lines, and lots of people are currently being hurt by it. All right. And yeah, just more about Citrix Bleed. So, and there's this one, which I thought was very cute, again, very easy to understand. This is an attack that goes like this. You make a web page, a Wikipedia page seems to work best, and on your Wikipedia page, you end a paragraph. Here. Let me zoom in on this if it'll get bigger. There we are. So you make and here's some garbage. Everybody has to pop garbage up on the screen. All right, so all right, so you have a page, and the page ends with the word form and a period. Then you put in a note here, and it puts this bracket 1 up here, indicating a footnote. And the next thing, the word here is in, which could be a top-level domain. So the point is, on a Wikipedia page, you have a word and a top-level domain, and a period, and a footnote and carriage return. And when you browse it in Slack, I think, Slack reformats it like this. It throws away the footnote, and it throws away the carriage return, and turns that into a link. So you could, to get Twitch to stop stuttering, a student found this out. You have to go in the settings and set the quality to 1080p, source. The reason it stutters, well, the reason it deblurs all the time is because it changes the quality. Now, if the camera stutters and shows jerky motions, I've seen that before, and I don't know what's causing that. Yeah, but the actual screen you can fix by going to fixed resolution. It's apparently whatever automatic resolution adjustment it has is defective, and it just keeps randomly changing the resolution otherwise. Yeah, I see my motion of me is jerky. I don't think there's anything to be done about that. I haven't found any adjustment for that yet, although there might be one somewhere. Anyway, the point is, this way you can trick it into adding a link to a page that was not visible on Wikipedia and might include malware. I thought it was a pretty cute trick and easy to understand. So let me stop this news.